Dear brothers and sisters, may the peace of Christ be with you all. Today, I want to speak to your hearts, not only to your minds, about a light that never fades, a force that heals wounds, and a power that unites, love and compassion. In a world often marked by indifference, fear, and division, love and compassion are not signs of weakness. They are signs of great strength. They are the heart of the gospel and the soul of humanity. Dear friends, before we begin this message of hope and healing, I invite you to support this humble mission of light. Like this message, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon to stay connected, and share it with someone who needs a word of encouragement today. Your small act may be the beginning of someone else's transformation. Love is often portrayed as something that simply happens to us, a spark, a feeling, a moment of warmth. But true love, the kind that transforms hearts and heals wounds, is not just a feeling. It is a daily decision, a conscious choice we make sometimes even when it is difficult, uncomfortable, or painful. Love does not depend on how we feel in the moment. It is not reserved for those who are easy to love, or those who agree with us, or those who treat us well. Love becomes most real, most authentic, when it costs us something, when it challenges our pride, when it calls us to forgive, when it leads us to give without expecting anything in return. To love is to say, I will stand by you even when it's hard. I will treat you with dignity even when we disagree. I will seek your good even when it asks something of me. Love like this is patient. It does not give up when things get difficult. It is kind. It does not seek revenge. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. This kind of love is not loud or boastful. It may never be praised or noticed by the world, but it has the power to quietly transform everything it touches. It restores families, it heals deep wounds, it brings peace where there was once conflict, and it reminds us that we were not made to live for ourselves alone, but for one another. When we wake each morning, we are given a sacred invitation to choose love. In the way we speak, in the way we listen, in the way we forgive, we are shaping the world not with grand gestures, but with small, faithful acts of love. And in choosing love again and again, even when it's hard, we become more fully the people we were created to be, vessels of mercy, bridges of peace, and witnesses of a hope that never fails. Compassion is the language of God, a silent, sacred voice that speaks not just to the mind, but directly to the heart. It is the tender gaze that sees suffering and does not look away. It is the open hand that reaches out to heal, not to judge. It is the presence that stays beside those who are wounded, even when there are no words left to say. Compassion is more than a response. It is a way of being, a way of seeing, a way of loving. When we look at the life of Christ, we see that he never passed by the suffering. He stopped, he noticed, he was moved, deeply moved by the pain of the people. He wept at the tomb of his friend. He touched the leper when no one else would. He welcomed the sinner, healed the broken, fed the hungry, and lifted the fallen. He did not act from obligation, but from the overflowing mercy of his heart. Every act of compassion was a revelation not only of his humanity, but of the heart of God. God's compassion is not cold or distant. It is not bound by rules or restricted by status. It is a compassion that draws near, it embraces, it restores, and it reminds us that we are never forgotten, never abandoned, never beyond the reach of mercy. It is not a reward for the righteous, but a refuge for the weak. This is why compassion is so powerful, because it mirrors the very love of the one who made us, and so we, too, are called to speak this language, not only in grand gestures, but in the ordinary moments of every day when we slow down to listen, when we give our time without expecting it back, when we forgive before being asked, when we simply sit beside someone who is suffering and say, "You are not alone." These moments, though small, are sacred. They carry within them the echo of the divine. To live with compassion is to allow our hearts to be pierced by the pain of others, not because we can fix everything, but because we choose not to be indifferent. Indifference is the enemy of compassion. Where there is compassion, there is no room for apathy or hardness of heart. Compassion keeps us human. It keeps us connected. It keeps us open to grace. And in a world where so many feel unseen, unheard, unloved, compassion becomes the language that heals. It reminds every person that they matter, that their suffering matters, and that somewhere, someone still cares. It is in speaking this language in action, in presence, in love, that we most clearly reflect the face of God to one another. Let our prayer be this: Lord, teach me to speak your language not with eloquent words, but with a heart that listens, with hands that serve, and with a soul that knows no one is ever too far from your mercy. This is the miracle of compassion. It does not fix everything, but it changes everything. Not because it takes the pain away, but because it refuses to let pain have the final word. We belong to one another. These are not just gentle words, they are a profound truth, a sacred reality that calls us to live differently. In a world that often encourages division, competition, and isolation, we must remember that we were never meant to walk alone. From the beginning, we were created for relationship, not just with God, but with one another. Our lives are deeply intertwined, and the joy, pain, and dignity of each person is tied, in some mysterious way, to the whole of humanity. Each person we meet is not a stranger, but a reflection of ourselves, carrying hopes, fears, struggles, and dreams not so different from our own. Whether young or old, rich or poor, from this land or that, believer or non-believer, every human heart beats with the same need to be seen, to be loved, to belong. When we truly understand this, it becomes impossible to ignore the suffering of another. Their pain is our pain. Their joy becomes our joy. Their dignity is our responsibility. To say we belong to one another is not an invitation to charity from a distance. It is a call to communion, to presence, to shared humanity. It means that we do not rise by pushing others down, and we do not find peace while others are in anguish. It challenges the lie that our worth is measured by what we have or how we differ. Instead, it reminds us that our worth is rooted in who we are: children of the same God, members of the same human family. This truth asks us to build bridges where walls have been built. It invites us to seek understanding instead of judgment, and to choose solidarity over separation. When we reach out to the marginalized, when we defend the dignity of the poor, the immigrant, the vulnerable, we are not doing them a favor. We are honoring our shared belonging. We are recognizing that their lives are bound to ours, and that none of us is truly free until all of us are respected. And let us not forget, belonging is not always comfortable. It asks us to listen when we would rather speak, to forgive when we would rather hold on to anger, to make room for those who are different from us, not just in words, but in our hearts and in our communities. True belonging is not about agreeing on everything, it is about loving through everything. It is about staying when it would be easier to leave. In a world marked by so much loneliness and division, the simple act of saying, "You are not alone," has great power. When we choose to care, when we choose to see others as our brothers and sisters, we become part of the healing that this world so desperately needs. Let us carry this truth with humility and courage. We belong to one another. And may this truth move us not only to compassion, but to action, to become builders of peace, sowers of hope, and guardians of the dignity of all. The poor are our teachers, not in the way the world often imagines teachers to be standing before us with degrees or titles, but in the quiet, often hidden way that speaks directly to the heart. Their lessons are not written in books, but in lives marked by endurance, in eyes that have seen hardship, and in hands that have held both sorrow and grace. To truly encounter the poor is not only to serve them, it is to learn from them. So often we approach those who are poor with the mindset of giving. We bring food, resources, aid, all good and necessary things. But if we stop there, we risk missing the deeper invitation. Because the poor are not a problem to be solved, they are people to be known, companions to be welcomed, voices to be heard. Their lives have something to teach us that no comfort or convenience ever could. How to live with gratitude, how to persevere with hope, how to love without pretense. The poor teach us about simplicity, not as a romantic ideal, but as a lived reality. In a world driven by consumption and excess, they remind us that we need far less than we think to live a meaningful life. They show us how to treasure the small joys, a shared meal, a warm gesture, a moment of laughter. They teach us that human worth is not measured by possessions or achievements, but by presence, by dignity, by love. They also teach us vulnerability, not weakness, but honest dependence. In the face of need, they reveal our shared human condition, that all of us at some point will need help, that none of us is entirely self-sufficient. And in their openness to receive, we are reminded that receiving is as holy as giving. There is humility in asking for help, and deep courage in continuing on when life offers so little. The poor carry the suffering of the world, often silently. Yet in them we see a reflection of Christ Himself, born in a manger, homeless and wrapped in humility, walking among the broken, rejected by the powerful, yet rich in love and mercy. When we draw close to the poor, we are not just practicing charity, we are meeting Christ in His most vulnerable disguise. And in doing so, we come face to face with what is most real, most sacred. But to truly learn from the poor, we must listen not only with our ears, but with our hearts. We must enter into relationship not as rescuers, but as equals. We must sit beside them, learn their names, hear their stories, their experiences, their resilience, their faith in the midst of hardship. These are profound teachings that challenge our assumptions and deepen our understanding of grace. And so, let us not approach the poor with pity, but with reverence. Let us not presume to bring Christ to them, but to find Christ already there. Let their lives open our eyes, soften our hearts, and reshape our priorities. Let us allow ourselves to be taught not just about poverty, but about love, humility, and the truth of who we are. For in the end, it may be the poor, those the world overlooks, who show us what it means to truly live. And in learning from them, we come closer to the kingdom of God. Small acts done with great love can change the world, not because they are grand or spectacular, but because they carry within them the very heart of the gospel, the quiet, powerful truth that love is most real when it is lived in the ordinary moments of life. In a world fascinated by success, recognition, and noise, we must never underestimate the holiness of the hidden, the value of the unnoticed, and the eternal impact of the seemingly small. There is a temptation to believe that only the big gestures matter, that unless we can solve great problems or speak to crowds or change systems, our love is somehow less meaningful. But this is not the way of grace. The kingdom of God grows not like a thunderstorm, but like a seed silently, steadily, often underground. A gentle word, a listening ear, a sincere prayer, a helping hand, a forgiving heart. These are the seeds that take root in hearts, that grow into peace, into healing, into hope. To visit the sick, to call someone who is lonely, to smile at a stranger, to offer food to someone hungry, these may seem small in the eyes of the world. But in the eyes of God, they are priceless, for love is not measured by scale, but by sincerity. A single act of kindness done with the right heart may echo far beyond what we can see, healing a wound, restoring a person's dignity, or simply reminding them that they are not alone. There is a sacred power in presence, in simply being with someone in their suffering or joy. We often do not need to have the right words or solutions. Sometimes the greatest gift is simply to show up, to be present, to remain. These small acts, staying by someone's side, offering encouragement, lighting a candle in the dark, are signs of a love that is faithful and true. This love, when rooted in humility and offered freely, carries with it the fragrance of heaven. It does not seek reward. It does not boast. It gives quietly, often anonymously, trusting that even the smallest action can become part of something greater when offered with love. And when done in secret, it reflects the love of God, who sees every gesture, every sacrifice, every tear. Each of us, no matter our age, status, or circumstance, can be a channel of this love. We do not need to be famous to be faithful. We do not need wealth to be generous. We do not need influence to make a difference. What we need is a heart open to the needs of others, and the willingness to respond, however small our offering may seem. The saints were not all people of power or renown. Many were hidden souls who loved in the shadows, who performed small acts with extraordinary love. Their lives remind us that holiness is not reserved for the few, but is accessible to all who love without counting the cost. So today, let us begin again. Let us choose love in the small things, a word of blessing instead of criticism, patience instead of frustration, generosity instead of fear. Let our daily life become a liturgy of love, where every gesture, no matter how ordinary, becomes an offering to God. For in the end, it is not the magnitude of what we do that matters most, but the love with which we do it. And through these small acts, love becomes visible, mercy becomes tangible, and heaven draws near. Dear friends, let love be your compass and compassion your constant companion. Let every step you take be a step toward healing, unity, and peace. And may your life be a living testimony not of fame, but of faithfulness, not of power, but of presence. Go forth, then, and be that presence of love in a world that thirsts for tenderness. Peace be with you always.